Hello, this is Jed Brewer with Study Groups and the Below the Line Club. It's very nice to have you on our call today as we talk about the power of distributed gaming, innovation and legislation, what's going on in the world of gaming. For many, depending on what state you're operating in, gaming may not be much going on, but other people in other states, particularly in regulated states, it's a big part of your overall business and can even sometimes make as much money as the whole inside of your convenience store. So it's an emerging trend that is spreading across the country, and we wanted to have some experts to come and give us a highlight of where is the industry going, how is it growing, and how does legislation play into that, and what are some of the trends that we're seeing. So really thankful to be able to have J&J Gaming on the call with us today. A few people will be presenting them. Bill Martin is the Senior Vice President of Corporate Account Sales at J&J Gaming. Jason Brent is the Corporate Account Manager there. And then Matt Hortenstine is the General Counsel of J&J Gaming. So just a high level of J&J Gaming, if you haven't heard about their company, but they work in regulated states. There's more than a handful. These guys will talk more, but I believe 15-ish, give or take, regulated states out there in the country. But they and their subsidiaries are the largest distributed gaming operator in the U.S., and they provide gaming as a service to non-casino locations such as restaurants, bars, taverns, grocery stores, and then relevant to us is convenience stores and truck stops. And they've been around since 1929, try to view themselves as an industry leader with a strong reputation as the most trusted terminal operator that they're striving to become in the United States. And they do that by providing best-in-class service to their various partners. And so, Bill, very nice to have you on the call.
Hello?
Getting a little bit of feedback there from somebody, but for the audience, as we dive in here to this topic, we want this to be as educational as possible. So if you have questions, please type into the dialog box and go to webinar. I'll be able to read those, and then I can relay them to our presenters at the appropriate time. So, Bill, I'm going to turn the floor over to you to take us into distributed gaming. What do we need to know about it? And just appreciate you taking this time to help educate all of us a little bit more.
Thanks, Jed.
Hey, Bill, this is Matt. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep. Hi, Matt. We're gonna kick it off here.
Yeah, sorry. I beg your pardon. I just figured out how to do this. My bad. Go ahead. Sorry.
Technology. But no. Thank you, Jed, for that introduction. And again, thanks everyone for joining us. We're J&J Gaming. We're going to talk as much as we can and educate you on distributed gaming throughout the country. And I'm going to pass it over to Jason Brent, and he's going to kind of kick us off here.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate that. So as you can see from our first slide here, J&J, well, obviously we're the largest distributor gaming operator in North America, doing about $1.3 billion in gaming revenue annually, have nearly 4,000 accounts all across the country. So many of you are probably wondering how we got here. 15 years ago, when we broke ground on video gaming here in Illinois, a lot of the organic growth that J&J experienced came from organizations just like yourselves. You know, C-store operators with 5, 15, 30 locations. That's been a very, very integral part of our business and one we hold very dear. Also, in the last 3 to 5 years, we've also experienced growth through acquisition. So after all that being said, what is our footprint? Okay, so we operate in 6 different states across the country: Illinois, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nebraska, Nevada, and Montana. So those are where we have gaming operations currently in those regulated states. We also have operations in amusements in a couple different states: Indiana, Missouri, Wisconsin, and South Dakota. Why is that important? If we believe if and when these states do go a regulated route, we already have existing clientele sitting in those states right there. So that's a great lead-in to where we'd like to go. Other states like North Carolina, South Carolina, those areas as well, we still believe that the footprint for the organic growth that we experienced 15 years ago is still the way to do it today in those other states. So I'm going to turn it back over to Bill, and he can kind of talk about the 95 years of experience that we have in this.
Guys, I'll just make a comment. It was interesting. I was in Georgia at the Georgia Convenience Store Association a few weeks ago, but this gaming topic was, they had some legislators there, et cetera, for the state of Georgia, but it was probably the most pressing topic that members were talking about with their legislators, trying to educate and advocate for it. So at least in the state of Georgia, it was certainly a hot topic.
Yeah, Jed, it's really it's a hot topic in most states where it's currently unregulated and even regulated. So that's a good call out. We've been in business at J&J for 95 years. We have 95 years experience in the route management industry. And with that knowledge and the experience, it's really allowed us to become the nation's largest and most trusted distributor in gaming as an operator. You can kind of see from the graph down there, that's slot operators in the U.S. We're behind Caesars, Penn, Boyd, who are big casino operators, but we're the largest distributed gaming operator in the country. And, we started from a small family-owned company. We still have a good family-owned culture. We started primarily as a jukebox operator, and through the years, we're able to expand our offerings to our partner businesses that included everything from vending services, pinballs, dart machines, pool tables, and ATMs, and many other amusement offerings. We've been able to hold on to our family-owned culture, like I said, and continue to excel in the route management. So again, that's something we really pride ourselves on, is the route management, and with the 95 years of experience. Got a little bit of a mission statement down there. Some of the highlights of that are we again pride ourselves on integrity and being truthful and trustworthy to our partners. We really, really pride ourselves on our service, and our business machine uptime is so important to everyone. The longer the machines are up, the more money everyone's going to make. And again, with our experience from the past, it just shows that we're one of the best. So the next slide here is, this slide is just an overview of some of our many partners in the distributed gaming industry around the country. As you can see, we partner with several big chains, but we built this company on being trusted partners with family-owned businesses, whether they own and operate 1 or 10 locations. We've been able to partner with many family-owned small businesses and help them increase their overall value and revenue, in addition to being a reliable and really trustworthy source of information for them. So we're partnered with everyone from the big chains, nationwide chains, to local mom and pops that have 2 or 3 or 10 or 15. So again, this slide's just kind of giving a little bit of glimpse into what who we deal with on a daily basis. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over. Oh, go ahead, Jed.
Oh, I was just going to say, I appreciate that brief intro. I know people are really interested in learning a little bit about what is distributed gaming and how can it benefit my business.
Yep. So I'm going to pass it over to our General Counsel, Matt Hortenstine, and he's going to kind of take it and educate you on that.
Okay, are we on the introduction to distributed gaming slide, that first slide?
You are.
Yeah, great. So a little bit about distributed gaming. There's roughly 11 states in the union right now that have some form of regulated licensed distributed gaming. And when we use the term distributed gaming, what we mean there is gaming that is distributed out into communities in the form of locations like truck stops, convenience stores, bars, restaurants, veterans clubs, et cetera, those types of things. So unlike a destination-oriented casino environment where people are traveling to a singular location and they do all their gaming there on that location, we're really dealing with a distributed product where we distribute these slot games, Class 3 slot games out into the community. And there are really about 11 states that have some form of that. Each state has made different policy choices and have different points of view on how this should roll out. In our point of view, the most robust and kind of the state that got it right is Illinois, and I think the numbers support that, the mathematics support that. But some states have taken a different point of view, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, it's a significant tax revenue generator. We did a study, which is available on our website if you would like to download it. You see some of the jobs supported, the impact on U.S. GDP and the overall tax revenue. It's a pretty dramatic number. And I always use the Illinois example. Last year, the entire gaming footprint in Illinois, sports betting, casinos, and distributed gaming put in about $1.5 billion in tax revenue. Just under $1 billion of that came from distributed gaming. So if you're talking about revenues, distributed gaming is where it's at. That's where the big revenues really are. Some states have approached this from a Class 3 slot game. And what do I mean when I say Class 3? That is a true slot game, a game that you would normally see on a casino floor. They're identical games, GLI certified and placed in casinos and in distributed gaming locations that have that format. Some states have gone a little bit different way. Usually that is motivated by a constitutional prohibition in that particular state against games of chance. And two examples of that would be Nebraska and Georgia, where they have a very good skill game-based distributed gaming structure. So they don't allow a true Class 3 game of chance. Instead, they allow for this what's commonly referred to as a skill game or a sweepstakes game or something of that nature. Now, I will tell you that at the end of the day, they're all slot games. The industry has had a lot of very clever manufacturers and a lot of very clever lawyers that have gotten around the definition of what a game of chance is. And God bless America, that's opened up a lot of opportunities in other states. But they are, at the end of the day, slot games. And there will come a day when the law catches up to technology in this space eventually. But that's kind of where the industry has gone. Most states that have this form of distributed gaming, we advocate for what we call a three-tiered system. And so you start off with the manufacturer. They manufacture the games and sell them into the terminal operator. Terminal operator is the owner, operator, and service manager of the devices. They in turn locate them into the third tier of the structure, which is the licensed establishment or local establishment. I like to call them the host. They are the host property that provide that entertainment venue. We're the equipment owner and operator, so we provide the equipment into that and the cash management service and everything that goes to make sure that game is operating properly, plus all of the tax reporting, tax collection, tax distribution, and of course revenue distribution back to the local establishment. These are typically based on statutory splits of the revenues. In Illinois, we started off splitting that roughly a third, and a third. So there was a third, 33% tax rate, and that went down, and the remainder was split 50-50 between the local establishment and the terminal operator. So typically, the local establishment does not have any significant capital expenditure into the location for the gaming. That is almost exclusively paid for by the terminal operator. There are a few exceptions to that. If you do some rewiring or maybe some interior cosmetic type improvements in your game room, sometimes those may be paid for by the local establishment. But typically, the vast majority of the expenses are all paid for by the terminal operator. Cost of the game, cost of all the software, all the upgrades, all the cash management services, et cetera, are taken care of by the terminal operator. But of course, the local establishment, you're the host. You got to take care of your own facility and make sure that's an inviting location for people to come and play. So that's at a high level what distributed gaming is. Again, it's currently in 11 states. We are in 8 of those states currently at J&J. The other states that we're trying to get to pass some form of legislation to adopt distributed gaming, in particular Missouri, Virginia, and North Carolina. I think those are the three leading states, and we'll come back and talk more about that in a moment. But those are the states that I think are in the lead. There are other states out there that are considering this. I would say Pennsylvania is looking at expanding from truck stops out into a more broad distributed gaming footprint. There are other states that have considered this, Alabama, Mississippi. There are some other states out there, even Texas has considered this in some degree. So there's a lot going on out there in the industry, and we'll just keep monitoring that and see where that leads us. Can we go to the next slide there?
Real quick question there for you, Matt. On that, there are some acronyms. You have VGT, VGL, COAM.
Yeah.
Anything that explain the differences of those?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So at the end of the day, VGT, Video Gaming Terminal, VLT, Video Lottery Terminal, COAM, that stands for Coin Amusement, that's in Georgia. These are really all synonymous terms. They're referencing the device itself. Now, there are different levels or classes of these devices. For example, you've heard me use the phrase Class 3 gaming. That's a true random number generator slot machine that you see on a casino floor. That's the Cadillac. That's what you want. You want your state to allow Class 3 gaming because that's what the consumer wants the most. They want that gaming experience. It's the best gaming experience, and the numbers clearly show that. On the other hand, you do have some other types of gaming like the COAM games. In Nebraska, for example, they call it a coin device, but they're really all just interchangeable terms for the gaming device itself. And then the question becomes, is it a game of skill or is it a game of chance? I would suggest to you that they're really all games of chance. They're really all slot games at the end of the day, but for some gimmick to get around and shoehorn yourself into the law of that particular state. And that's fine. Different states have different approaches on it. We operate COAM games in Georgia. We operate coin devices in Nebraska. We operate Class 3 slots in Pennsylvania and Nevada, Montana, and Illinois, by way of example. So they're all capable of running a distributed gaming platform. It's just what is the best device? What is going to make you the most money? What's going to make the terminal operator and the licensed establishment the most money? That's clearly the Class 3 slot device.
Mm-hmm. And to your point, it sure feels like the typical consumer wants it because in the states where it's regulated and allowed, it gets lots of usage.
That's right. And I think that next slide really demonstrates that. If you go to the next slide with the graph, and JB and Bill, feel free to jump in on this. That graph kind of tells the story. Illinois, which has the most robust Class 3 three-tier system distributed gaming model in the U.S., it just killed it. I mean, the numbers just speak for themselves. Most devices, the most revenue. It is just, I've lived in Illinois my entire life. Illinois gets almost nothing right. But it got one thing right, and it's distributed gaming. They did it right. Not to say there aren't some things that could be improved on, not to say there aren't some things that we've amended over the past decade to correct, but by and large, Illinois got this thing right. This is the model that if you want to make the most revenue, not only for the state, but also for the terminal operator and the local establishment, that's the model to mimic.
This is Bill. I agree. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. Illinois is kind of the Cadillac of distributed gaming. And, if you're looking to press your legislators into getting into regulated gaming, the Illinois model is definitely the way we would prefer to see it go. And I think Matt will get into that a little bit more. So we'll slip to the next slide here.
What's distinctively different about Illinois?
Well, I would say, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of things, but I'm going to tell you three things that are critical. The first thing that's critical is the device itself. It is a Class 3 slot game that you will see on every casino floor in any casino in the U.S. So the consumer wants that game. They want that gaming experience. And then, of course, when a new game comes out, like, for example, Game of Thrones or Elvis or Monopoly or whatever, that Class 3 gaming platform in Illinois has access within a reasonable period of time to that gaming software. So we're always able to refresh the platform with new games that people like and people want. And also there's just, and I'm not a big slot player, but people that play slots, they want that experience. They want to get into that fever game. They want to get into that bonus game. They want to play the progressive. That's what they enjoy playing. And again, the numbers, don't take my word for it. Look at the numbers. The numbers clearly show that is the type of game that they want to play. It's more fun. It's more engaging. So that's number one, is you got to get the right device in there. Now, does that mean that if there's political hurdles in your way or legal hurdles in your way that you have to go with a skill game or a sweepstakes game or something else like that, that you can't make money? Of course not. You can still make money in those worlds too. It's just you're not going to make as much. It's a more difficult business model. The second thing that is critical in Illinois, and I think in many other states that have had success with this, is you've got to have that three-tiered system. You have to have guardrails between the local establishment, the terminal operator, and the manufacturer. They should not be able to be licensed in all three of those categories. If you're a terminal operator, you stay in your lane. If you're a local establishment, you stay in your lane. This creates great competition, and out of competition comes the best result. So in Illinois, for example, we're out there and we are competing every day to get the best equipment, the best service, the best cast management. If you don't have a three-tiered system, there's really a chilling effect on that open competition model. And, again, God bless America, competition is what makes it go. The third key element that I would say is you got to have statutory splits and use agreement requirements in that particular jurisdiction. So you got to have a contract between the terminal operator and the local establishment that establishes, that contractual relationship, and then what the split is. And we see other states that do not have statutory splits. In other words, a statute, the law establishes what the split between the state, the terminal operator, and LE is. The LE meaning local establishment. If you don't have that, it becomes a race to the bottom, and it's just a hodgepodge of inducement. And as a result, you cannot make enough money to reinvest in the platform. So those are the three key ingredients. There are others that are also very important, but those are three, in my view, key ingredients. And Bill and JB, if you've got something else you think is important, please throw it in there.
No, that pretty well hits it. Those are the three main things is what we look for in future states.
Thank you, guys. That was helpful.
And if we go to the next slide there, what has happened in the world of gaming. If you look back, you see, this all started back in 1985, went through to 2020 with the last date that came in. So there's been a lot of different experiments on how to operate a distributed gaming model. Every state that you see on that graph has done it differently. But I think in 2009, when Illinois passed its statute and moved forward, you really saw a big expansion. That's where you kind of get the hockey stick in revenue there of some great revenues. And again, it's, regulators were very circumspect about distributed gaming people. It was the old time Wild West, small operators out there, laundering money. It was, not paying their taxes, not doing the 1099 reporting, et cetera, et cetera. It just was not a properly regulated environment. But incrementally over time, more and more states got into regulating this properly. And what has happened is it brought economic certainty, because with that with that regulatory structure, then you can demonstrate value, and that value then is something that you can monetize. So if you're in an unregulated world that's illegal, and then you're making, $2 million a year off your gaming, you really can't monetize that and sell that off or put it on your balance sheet, because it's an illegal activity if you're not reporting that on your tax return. But what a regulated world brings to you is the ability to monetize that. And then people oftentimes will have, the ability to sell their business or sell off pieces of their business that 5, 6, 7, 8 times EBITDA, and your gaming revenue folds into that revenue structure. So it brought economic certainty to people, and it also opened the marketplace because the consumer got economic certainty too. They knew that they were going to get paid when they won the jackpot. They knew the game wasn't going to be manipulated or cheated, and they had a regulator to go to if they thought some hanky-panky was going on. So again, it just widened the marketplace. More and more people came to play. So the regulated environment, I know everybody, and myself included, we're all reluctant to say, oh gosh, we're going to regulate this and get the government involved. And we all kind of cringe at that. This is an example where the government be involved in the right way. That's the big if, right? They got to be in there in the right way. But if you can get them in there the right way, it will create economic certainty both for you and your business and what your business can be valued at, and also your revenue streams from the gaming activity. Plus, it opens the marketplace up for the consumers. So that's kind of the teaching of that slide there from our point of view. And again, Bill and JB, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I think that's a great slide. It actually shows exactly just how the hockey stick model works, and especially the consumer confidence that we bring with the government involved in the right way, Matt.
So unless there's some more questions, I'll go on to the next slide there. A lot of times people ask me, where'd you come up with this word distributed gaming? I wish I had been the one that came up with it, or I wish somebody would come up with a better one. I kind of came from the finance world, this idea of gaming being distributed out into the community. Not the easiest descriptive word, but it is what we got. But at the end of the day, what it really is, it's regulated gaming. It's a complete license. It's a privilege to have a game license. You need to be suitable. We don't need, felons and people that are, laundering money and following the rules in gaming. For all of our sakes, we need to make sure that we follow the rules and, keep our licenses. And that's what keeps the bad element out. This slide lists out again that 3-tier system: manufacturers, terminal operators, and your location, and suggests what we advocate for, where no one license holder can hold multiple licenses. You got to stay in your lane. Not every state has done that. Oregon, by way of example, you can be the terminal operator and the location. There are some others like that. So not every state has made that same conclusion. We think it is the one that the data suggests is the best model. So I don't know if you have any questions there. I'll pause for a minute and answer any questions you have.
I think we're okay.
I'll keep going here. Hang on one second. Okay. What we are not, we are not this unregulated gaming. And JB, I think you had some thoughts on this slide.
Yeah, you can see the difference in just how the game rooms are laid out. We'll have better examples moving forward on this, but these are some of your game of chance, game of skill that Matt referenced earlier in his presentation. You see many of these out there in some of these unregulated states. They may have been a good concept going forward to get something in there, but once the crackdowns start happening from the government, when they're thinking about taking it, as Matt's is putting out there, going in a different direction, this is what you'll typically see in some of the C-stores across the country.
Mm-hmm. So let's go to the next slide. What we are not. We are not unregulated gaming. I would say illegal gaming, but that's an open question for judges to decide. It's certainly unregulated. And there's been a lot of growing problems with unregulated gaming. And you go to states like Kentucky and Michigan are two great examples where their attorney general's office has gotten very aggressive on prosecuting those who are operating unregulated slot games, illegal slot games. And I think that is going to continue. You're going to see that more, not less. More and more attorneys general in various states are getting into that. You're going to see that dramatically in Virginia. There are other states that haven't gotten with that program yet, but they are looking into that. Every conference I go to, unregulated gaming is the number one thing they're talking about. And there's a couple reasons why, but the most important thing I think for people to understand on this is that get into unregulated gaming, you are asking for a trip to the IRS because they are starting to watch this very, very carefully. A lot of people are pushing money through unregulated gaming sites, unregulated gaming locations. They're not paying income tax on it. They're not paying gaming tax. They're not reporting the income on 1099 or W-2G. So they continually are running the same risk issue, and the IRS is starting to take a hard look at this. So I would say, that's probably the biggest reason why not to get into that. And JB, I know you got some photos there for some other what it looks like there.
So while he's pulling up those photos, what's your advice for somebody who's, if there's, call it 15 roughly regulated states, for the people that are in the unregulated states at this point? Is it to lobby to make it become regulated, or what do people do?
Yeah, absolutely. My advice is I wouldn't take the risk of getting into unregulated gaming. It's a question of if, not when. Excuse me, I got that backwards. It's a question of when, not if. Attorneys general and the IRS are really starting to look at this very carefully. I wouldn't take that risk. As a lawyer, I have to tell you, don't break the rules, don't break the law. The better way to do it is to go to your legislature and say, look, this is going on. We need to regulate it properly so we have proper consumer protection, proper problem gaming protections and mitigation efforts so that we can do this the right way. We can properly and fairly tax it and let us all participate. And what you will find is the market will expand and you'll actually make more money as a result, even though you'll have some taxes. Now, there are some examples of some states that have gotten overzealous with regard to the tax rate. New York, Pennsylvania are probably two glowing examples of that. So you have to, you got some work to do. You got to lobby this the right way and get that done. But it is definitely the right answer long term, and it prevents you from, getting in trouble with the IRS, which those guys always worry me.
And Matt, I'm not an expert in this, but you said Illinois is the model. And I believe in Illinois there's regulations around who can have video gaming terminals and who cannot, and it has to do with square footage of a place. And can you speak more to that? And as we approach our legislators, what are the things that we need to make sure that we get included in so we're able to, actually participate in this?
Yeah, so I think, the number one issue is what are the locations that are eligible for the LE license, the local establishment license. And most people try to tie that out to three kind of categories. One is a liquor license permit. Obviously, liquor license, that's adult entertainment oriented locations where they're serving alcohol. And, we don't want underage gaming going on. So that is a category that really made a lot of sense. And most statutes start out with some form of ABC licensure or liquor license type concept. And that will extend in not only into your bars and restaurants, but also into your clubs, like your VFWs, your Knights of Columbus, that type of thing. That's the first category. Second category that we see a lot of times is the truck stop convenience store category. That sometimes gets a little hairy because you're trying to define what is a truck stop, what is a convenience store, and you sometimes get some pushback from legislators and the public about, we don't want to see a little mini casino at every bodega or every 7-Eleven. So a lot of times they'll start applying, some rules around that. You got to be on 2 acres. You got to sell 10,000 gallons of diesel fuel a month. You got to have locations and facilities for true truck stop type orientation. Some states have said, no, we don't care. Well, convenience stores are just fine. So you're going to have to kind of thread that needle. The third category is people that hold lottery licensure. If you sell lottery tickets, you can have VGTs or VLTs. Those are the three predominant categories that we see on, who gets to have the games. And there is a little bit of a double-edged sword here. From a marketing perspective, you can oversaturate a market. You can let too many gaming licenses out there, and then we all suffer, and it becomes kind of a race to the bottom. So there's some logic to having some reasonable restrictions around the location. What we typically advocate for at J&J are the first, second, third categories, but we don't really push too hard on the lottery category. We pretty much say liquor license establishment and truck stops. And then, how do we define that truck stop term? We have found that has had the best response to the market and kind of creates that balance in the marketplace.
So you said truck stop. I think bigger location on that. Would many convenience stores be excluded from that definition then?
Well, some states have done exactly that. So in Illinois, if you are truly just a convenience store, you don't sell any fuel, and you don't have on-premises consumption for your alcohol permit, then yeah, that convenience store would likely be excluded in that regulatory structure. There have been people whittle away at that though. So some people have said, oh, well, you can have a small bar inside your convenience store for wine tastings and beer tastings and things like that. And so they've expanded, the liquor license aspect so that you can have very limited on-premises consumption at a convenience store, and then that qualifies you for a gaming permit. Every state's approached this differently. Illinois has probably been a little too loose on it. You're like I'll use the example of a Huck's or a Casey's. Not uncommon to see gaming in Huck's and Casey's. That to me makes a lot of sense. They do sell diesel fuel. They do have truck traffic. They do have the trappings of that. Juxtapose that with a singular 7-Eleven franchisee that doesn't sell any fuel. So that kind of shows you the right ditch and the left ditch.
Mm-hmm. So what would be kind of the sales pitch that you would recommend? I'm sure you're talking to these legislatures as well, but for a convenience store operator, truck stop operator, when they go and talk to their legislature, what kind of information would that legislature receive that would motivate them to look more favorably at this?
Yeah, so I think one thing you can do is go to the J&J website and go to our advocacy tab, and there are online documentation on there. We have a white paper on distributed gaming, what it is. We have a nationwide study that shows revenue generation forecasts and job creation forecasts for every state. So that's a good start. What is distributed gaming? Here's a white paper on it. What does this mean to me as a state for tax generation, and what does it mean for small businesses for revenue generation? And those tools are on that website, and I would highly recommend you take a look at it. No pride in authorship. You guys are welcome to them, and that's usually a very good place to start with most legislators. Ultimately, though, to me, the key is getting organized. The key is organizing your groups of small business people to go and talk to their legislators with these tools and say, we want this, we need this for the revenue. And this is a great tax revenue generator for you too, and we can do great things in our state, whether that be build hospitals or schools or roads or bridges, whatever it is that they pick. That is very meaningful to legislators. They see people like me coming in all the time, right, and telling them about this stuff. When they see grassroots business owners coming in large groups, it really makes a difference.
That makes sense. Well, I may have got you off point there on the other points we're hoping to make, but I'll turn it back to you guys.
Great. So Matt's done a tremendous job on differentiating regulated gaming and unregulated gaming. Here's what we call an example: an unregulated gaming site. 3 or 4 machines kind of tucked in a back corner, maybe in a stock room of some sort. Primarily out of sight, out of mind. Certainly not a casino type atmosphere, and certainly not a best player's experience. In contrast, here's a location of ours that really did a casino, or did their gaming in a really high level fashion. It's a casino. It's got a casino-like atmosphere. They've got plenty of video gaming terminals spaced out. It's a clean facility, private facility, secure area of the C-store. These are the things that if the space if our partners are allowed or building a new store, whatever the case may be, has this sort of vision, then J&J can really come in and do great things apart from the operational standpoint, whether it be servicing machines, collections of the machines, game room monitoring. You can see there's a lot of different designs and different fashions that really provide a great experience for the gamer when they do decide to have a couple minutes to go in and try their luck of chance. So these are just a few of the locations that we're extremely proud of, that we think they've done a tremendous job. And at the end of the day, their numbers truly do show just how well they do within their gaming operations. I think right now might be the best time to kind of get back to the third point about how this all works. Let's say you're in a state and you've got some opportunity and you're looking for a partner. What can you expect from J&J? So with a couple different things, we're a fully outsourced solution. What's that mean? So as Matt said, we provide all of the machines up front, no cost to the location whatsoever. We work with the top manufacturers all across the country. The continuous optimization, we're consistently looking at gaming numbers over and over, and anything that's underperforming is ones we want to swap out for something that might do better for the location. Matt also mentioned downloading the software, downloading new games. We're always constantly looking at that and seeing what might work. Now, we got to be very careful with that, though, because if you've got a game that someone really likes to play, but we've got new software out, we have to be careful that we're not, downloading new games for someone's favorite game and that person walks off and goes someplace else. Our marketing team is always looking for cutting edge player reward programs, among other marketing ideas. What we're simply trying to do there, make sure the player has a great experience so you're building your solid customer base right there, and they keep coming back to your location over and over and over again when it's their time to do gaming. 24/7, we always have to be on. In this business, nothing's ever down. So we must be timely and responsive to all of our partners. Compliance. Not only are we trying to keep you out of harm's way as far as your gaming license, but we also make sure we're tracking your liquor license and those renewals. So we make sure that we've got you guys in good standing there. There's also a lot of municipality licenses out there as well. So we want to make sure we're really tying into that. Our reporting is second to none. We've got a computer, we've got a software program that really does dive into some deep rabbit holes on analytics, on what game's performing, what the average bet is, what the net win per spin is, all of that good stuff. So we can dive into some great analytics, within your location, within your region too, about what works well and what doesn't. And obviously, a lot of this can't be successful if you don't have good sales reps in the field, looking at how things are going, what changes we can make, and where we can pivot to get those numbers to go in the right direction. Matt also put together a great flow chart here, as well as how our actual partnership actually works and what you can expect from J&J in our gaming operations, whether it be money in, funds out, collection, how we tie into the central regulatory system, working with the best manufacturers, as I mentioned, and what we expect from the location when it is time to get things going. And once again, looking at a lot of the numbers, Illinois was kind of a lot of our model today as far as the numbers go. Looking at the last 12 months and all of the location funds in, funds out, NTI, we're seeing anywhere from around $10,000 take-home revenue for some of these locations. Now, granted, that comes with a grain of salt. Some of the pictures we show, if you have room like that, and if it's in operations like that, you're probably going to be on the higher side of that $10,000 a month. And if you've got a little less space and maybe not put as much resource into it, you can probably expect maybe a little less than that 10% revenue per month. But that just gives you a great idea as far as what we can do if given the space allowed to make this partnership go as well as it possibly can. Obviously, Matt talked about contacting your local and state representatives if you don't have gaming, and trying to get them to listen to your voice as far as why you want regulatory distributed gaming and why your business needs it. So I think with that, well, we'd also want to do at least list where we're going to be next month, Las Vegas, the NACS show, booth C4195. Please come by, say hello, put a face with a name. Bill and I will certainly be there all 3 days. So we'd love to get a chance to meet you guys on a more personal level and see where our conversation takes us.
Thank you so much, Bill. I appreciate that. A couple of quick questions as we look at like class operators who are doing this right. Of course, there are states where they're allowed to be able to do it. I heard you say make that space very inviting, and you showed some pictures of what that looked like. What else are they doing? What are things that are setting apart those best-in-class people? You mentioned data that they're capturing. How are they using that data? What data are they capturing? Just what do best-in-class operators do?
So for us, again, it comes down to service a lot. You know, as far as the data, we've invested heavily in a system that we're the only operator in Illinois, for example, we're able to see individual numbers on individual games, hourly data that we can provide to the LE, the licensed establishment, to help them better run their business, and just as importantly, if not more importantly, you know, what type of games, what type of manufacturers put in there. So, you know, little things like that is what sets us apart. And again, our 95 years of experience in the route management for service. And then we've got good people. We've got good salty earth people that, you know, we form good partnerships and can be very trustworthy. You know, that's
sense,
probably
Bill.
the biggest things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sorry, I didn't phrase the question too well, but I appreciate those points. I guess terminal operator means you guys. I was thinking more retailer was what I meant by operator. What do you see best-in-class retailers doing? They're creating an environment that's clean and open. What are other things that they do to drive the most revenue?
Correct. Yeah. So with the licensed establishment, it's investing into the business, in the partnership. That goes with having, you know, a nice room, clean, comfortable, secure. That tends to get the most players. One of the biggest things we try to stress with our licensed establishments is your attendant is very important. You know, if Sally comes in and she wants Diet Coke every time she comes in, Sally gets her Diet Coke. You know, if George comes in and he wants to talk about his grandkids for 15 minutes before he sits down, you know, you talk about the grandkids. So little things like that. And again, we consult and try to help our licensed establishments to know these kind of little things. But it's clean, safe, secure, and really running the gaming as a part of your business. You know, you're not just putting games in there and go, hey, go play the games. You're running it as a part of your business and are engaged in it, and it makes the world of difference.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Well, folks, I appreciate sharing all that information on the various states that are out there and things that we can do to drive more business and even advocate for it to come to our state if it's not in one of ours yet today. Also, thank you for showing where you're going to be at the NAC show so people can come by your booth there, C4195. And appreciate you being willing to talk further with folks or field any additional questions that they have. And for the audience, hope you found this to be a good educational value as you consider how gaming may benefit your businesses going forward. So wish you all a very good September day on September 11th here. Thank you all and goodbye.